Hello, everyone. So I finally decided to go ahead with the podcast and to record about my thoughts on the various books that I've read. And particularly, I'm going to try to cover the Western canon books, the writing books, philosophy books, and of course, like all the motivational books that I have ever read. Today, I wanted to cover a very special book. It's called Stephen King's On Writing. It's a memoir. That means first half of it tells his story, uh, growing up and all that. And the second half of it is about the craft. Now, I'm not going to get into his life as such because these videos are about one thing, like what can you learn from the book and how can you apply it to real life? That's the thing that I'm interested in. And of course, subscribe to the channel. You can also hear this audio of this podcast and like Spotify and Amazon, right? So Stephen King, I didn't really like him in the beginning because he was like horror, and but then I came across this wonderful book that he's written. It was called On Writing. I was just a naive writer back then, so I had to start somewhere, and I was reading through this, and this had a great impact. He was like really telling what it takes to be a writer. A little bit of him, I think we should follow this. That is, his early childhood, single mother, father was gone, so he had to grow up. It seems like every writer goes through these things. This is what makes them the writer. Their life's not like rosy lives. Rosy lives make very poor writers. I might be wrong on that, but then the more I read, the more I realize hard life makes great writers. Of course, he was suffering from health issues and all that. And as any kid, he started with comic books and all these books. And that's how he started getting into writing. In fact, he earned his first dollar by reading, writing the story called Mr. Rabbit Trick. Just like J.K. Rowling, there's a reference there, right? She also wrote about some rabbits. Probably writing rabbits in a young age will show that you have some capacity for writing when you get older. So that's about it. And then he had great reading obsession. Now, this is the point I want to emphasize in. Of course, any great writer has a lot of reading obsession. They're like obsessed with reading. I am a very slow reader. I don't read much. When I see other people on Fable on Goodreads and they read hundreds and hundreds of books, I'm like, where do you find these things? But then I realized that if I'm reading to study the art, I don't need to necessarily read too many books. If I read the best ones over and over again, learn the craft, learn all those things, that should probably help me become a better writer. So, reading obsessively doesn't mean reading a lot, but you have to have reading as a habit. Of course, like any great writer, he had first publication attempts, rejections. Rejection is part of it. This I'm learning. And if I don't even put out the stories, then nobody's going to read it, right? So first, get okay being rejected. Even great people, great writers get rejected. So nobody is, you know, uh, secure in that thing. You have to get rejected. It's part of the job, right? And then there are other funny incidents which we don't need to go through. In fact, you can sign up to my Substack and receive these short summaries of the books. So you can just go through them quickly and get a feel for the book. And if you really like it, go read the book. These are only summaries, detailed summaries, but reading the book will give you the entire thing, right? So next is, of course, his first real job comes when he's writing sports for the Lisbon Weekly Enterprise at half a cent. This is when he starts to get into the all of it. Now, uh, the most important thing that I want to talk about is about writing lessons. John Gall's editing lesson was the first thing that he learned. That is, these two lines had stuck with me, but I couldn't get what it was all about those days, right? It was about write with doors closed and rewrite with door open. That's a very good lesson, right? So, and then when you write a story, you're telling yourself the story. When you rewrite, your main job is taking out all the things. Okay, this is so true because when I'm writing, actually, I'm telling it to myself. I don't know what's happening. I'm just telling it to myself. But when I'm editing, I'm thinking about the reader back then. But when I'm writing, I just want to be so ecstatic, energized, and I want to know where the story goes, right? But after it's done, I go back to it. Now, the things that I'm telling myself, I need to cut them out and make the story as though it's like telling it to the other person. Or I know the story now. Now I'm going to tell it without all the ha's and hymns and all the unnecessary words. So, obviously, the next lesson would be cut unnecessary words and adverbs ruthlessly. I try to follow this, but when you're reading a lot of books, you should understand that you have to have this innate wisdom to know where to cut and where not to cut. This is why editors are very good at what they do. Editors know where to cut and where not to cut. So it's a very important thing. Of course, his wife too is a very famous novelist. Her name is Tabitha. And in fact, she was the one, if you had heard the stories, she was the one who took the first novel, Carrie, which he thought like it's not going to make it and threw it in the dustbin, I suppose. And this, she was the one who took it and sent it, and it got selected. And they were doing teaching jobs and they were barely making it. And suddenly life changed when Carrie became from hardcover, the paperback rights were bought, and then it all went like crazy. And as they say, from then on, it's been history, and still he writes. Now, his practical advice is this: read constantly. Of course, you have to read. If you're a writer, you have to read. It's no magic to it. But I hear some people say that I don't read, I just write. That's so naive. How will you know what to write? How will you know like what real work sound like? How do you build a 400-page book? You have to know the structure, right? It's just like being very arrogant. An architect telling, this is just imagine an engineer has never built anything in life and coming and telling, look, I'm gonna build a great wall of China. We wouldn't give the job to that guy, right? Obviously, we wouldn't because he has to show some skill. He has to just to know what it takes. That's exactly why reading matters. And then write daily. This is such a cliche, but people think it's magic. No, you have to write daily. Whether you like it or not, you sit and write. You keep writing, you get good at it. Of course, you have to start with imitation. I started with imitating, of course, J.K. Rowling, Stephen King, all these writers. Eventually, you get to a place that you know that your voice is so and so, and you get your unique kind of style. Until then, you have to imitate. Okay, and your first reader is yourself. Remember that you write the story that you want to read. Don't write stories that someone else wants to read. Just like Toni Morrison said, if there is a story that you want to read and it's not there, then you have to write. Of course, here's the writing process that he follows, and you might even follow this. First draft is just for you. Don't worry about the audience at all, right? It's just write with the door closed. Rewrite with the door open is basically second draft is where you Of course, the other part is rewrite with the door open, which simply means you have to consider the readers. And he also says cut ruthlessly, remove everything that is in the story. It's very difficult for young writers, but then we have to do it. Omit needless words. One simple rule that I teach creative writing students is this, that, for instance, you can always use, instead of birds, use crow or sparrow and cut out all the other unnecessary words. That'll make your prose very good. Kill your darlings means even though you like it, if it doesn't serve the story, you have to kill it. No adverbs. Okay, he said firmly, she said angrily. Just use said. Okay, that's simple as that. And of course, he talks about vocabulary. He says, don't memorize these things and make it like you want to use and show how smart. No, it's a very organic thing. When you keep reading, you get all these words, and when you write, you know they come, right? You don't need to show off your vocabulary skills. It should be an osmosis, and avoid passive voice that every good writer knows. Paragraph breaks. Pacing is important, so you can't have like long paragraphs. People will tend to lose it. Got to keep it simple. Okay, dialogues, very simple, but there's much to it, right? What Stephen King says, I'm telling, because dialogue, there are like 2 3 books. We will cover those books one by one every week. Then descriptions, of course, less is more. Let readers fill in details. And the granddaddy of them all, the big idea, show don't tell. Okay, let actions reveal character, as simple as that. I will cover show don't tell in other videos because it's a lot to talk about. This is what he's talking about. On ideas, somewhere they come from. Okay, and your job is to recognize idea, because they keep coming and you have to take a call whether this is worthy or not. Some you can do it microfiction, some ideas are for short fiction, some are for novels, some are for epic novels. So it depends. Is this idea worth it? Some ideas are just for poetry. So you need to know what. Situation, not plots. Okay, so I teach this again and again. What ifs. If you ask what ifs, you can create great stories. And write what you know from your experience and observation, right, which makes the book worth it. And some of the other points that he talks about, we've already covered. He writes 2000 words per day, which is 10 pages. For a young writer, it will be difficult. Um, I would recommend going with 250 words in the beginning. Just write. It's going to be terrible, but no issues. Keep writing 250 words. Some days it's going to add up. And then once you get confident, move to 500 words, then move to 1000. This way, it's better than you saying, being motivated for 2 days and you'll say, like, okay, I'm going to do 2000 words. No, that's not it. Finish what you start. That's very important. I'm learning that now because I have many half baked projects. But now I focus on one thing, finish it up, put it to rest, and then I'm go on to others. Okay, and push through, because novels and books are huge. In the middle of it, you're like, don't know what's happening. You lose motivation. So you need to know how to go about it. And writing is a job. So you have to treat it professionally. We have to sit there on time and do it. And when he talks about revisions, he says, put it away. This is what I do as well. When you write, just throw the story away. Let it go out of your subconscious. And then when you come back to it, it'll be brand new. And now you can find out all the terrible things you've done and you can rewrite it. Of course, read it aloud. Reading aloud is not only for this, but anything. If you read aloud, you'll find out so many problems with your prose. Get feedback, not from your friends, from real readers who'll give you real feedback. They'll say, this is good, this is not good, so what can you do about it? So go ahead. Be willing to kill scenes, even good ones, which don't serve the story, just do it. And he tells about dealing with rejections a lot. You have to keep on submitting. You have to learn from feedbacks and don't take it personally. Always do some new materials. So these are the ideas he's talking about in this book. So if you take some of these ideas and put it together, it'll be helpful. So tomorrow I'll see you with another book and another lesson. Hope you all like it. Subscribe, tell your friends. We'll catch you all tomorrow. Thank you.